Hello students and good day to you all. Today is the 17th of April 2018 and today we're going to focus on the Forex market in this specific analysis. And in the Forex market, I'd like to focus on the dollar in front of the Canadian dollar. I went over other currencies such as the dollar index, the euro versus the US dollar, the pound in front of the US dollar, and I can say that most currencies at the moment are just fluctuating on a sideways corrective pattern. But on the other hand, we've got the dollar in front of the Canadian dollar, which performs very, very nicely. And we will analyze that. I want to show you a specific pattern that we can see over there. So first of all, let's go to our chart station. We will start by talking a bit about the euro in front of the US dollar, and then we will focus on the dollar in front of the Canadian dollar. So what we can see in front of us, again, it's on an hourly chart, 1 hour chart. We can see that indeed the market climbed a bit higher. We've talked about this position being a potential for a continuance of an uptrend. Just to show you again the larger trend, looking at a 4-hour chart, and we can see that we've got some corrective pattern fluctuation levels over here. I told you that I'm expecting the market to continue its bouncing inside a specific triangle formation, and indeed you can see that we're still bounded to this territory. And again, my expectation is to see a bit more fluctuation, just dropping down a bit, climbing up a bit. And my assessment, general assessment, is that we will see a continuance of an uptrend. Now, I can't say that we will see the burst already from this territory. We might see a bit of a downtrend below the triangle and only then a continuance of an uptrend. But that is another formation that's acceptable when it comes down to triangles in a corrective pattern. Let's zoom out to see the larger image. So on a weekly chart, we can see that again, we've got general downtrend movement. We've got a higher trend line above the entire corrective pattern. And again, you can see that we're almost approaching this territory. Now think about that. It's very logical in terms of behavior. When we're approaching such a significant trend line, that we can say that it occurred for the past approximately 10 years of a downtrend movement in a complex corrective pattern. When we're approaching this position, approaching this rate, we can see that a lot of traders out there, they express a lot of fear, and therefore we see the fluctuation levels. As you can see, we had the same scenario over here, the liquidity dropping down and really approaching the line. And I'll remind you, over here we can base the line only on this stop and at this stop. So this was the line back then, okay? Based on this and this stop, the line was crossed several times, and then we saw the market collapsing below the line. Now I assume, because again we've analyzed that on our last analysis, because we've reached the 72 level over here, I assume that we're already moving forward for a higher rate. So again, we need to receive additional announcement that my assessment is to cause the dollar to lose strength in the market, and then we will see a continuance of an uptrend, strong liquid movement that will move beyond this specific line. So the potential on my perspective is that we will see the dollar crossing and continuing with an uptrend. That is my assessment. Let's move forward and look at the dollar in front of the Canadian dollar. And over here, what we can see is a very, very nice image of a downtrend movement, and we're in the middle of a specific formation. Now, again, we're looking at a weekly chart. We're looking at a long-term movement for a downtrend potential. I'd like you to pay attention to two issues. The first one is the initial downtrend that we've received over here, the corrective pattern in 3 waves, and from this position, we have a large question mark whether we've got a corrective pattern continuance, meaning a B wave of a downtrend, or that is an initial 3rd wave downtrend movement. So if we're dealing with a 3rd wave, we're expecting to see a major collapse over here. And on the contrary, if we're looking at a continuance and a completion of a corrective pattern, then our assessment is to see a bit more of a downtrend. But again, on a weekly chart, we're talking about a very, very large move when it comes down to investment in the Forex market, talking about 6, maybe 10%, even if we're dealing with a corrective pattern. My first assessment is that we will see at least the market moving toward the trend line. Over here, again, we can assess that we will see a bit more bounce on the line if we will not cross that with a lot of liquidity. We will see a bit more bounce on the line, expressing some disagreement between the bulls and the bears. But after receiving additional confirmation from announcements, meaning a weaker dollar or a stronger Canadian dollar, our assessment is to see a continuance of this specific downtrend. Now, that is a very, very similar expectation from the dollar when it comes down to the dollar in front of the euro. There we saw a potential of an uptrend. And over here, we can see a potential of a downtrend as the dollar is the main currency in this specific condition. Okay, so moving forward to the trend line, we will see a consolidation area. That is my assessment, unless we will receive a significant announcement regarding this issue or that issue. Maybe Trump action on Syria will carry an effect on this specific chart when it comes down to the dollar. So concluding the entire idea, I'd like to show you the proportions that we're looking at. Very, very interesting, very accurate proportions. When we're dealing with the corrective pattern, we can see that the corrective pattern has completed the entire ABC pattern, reaching the 100% of a corrective pattern. And on the other side, we can analyze the entire downtrend movement. And analyzing that, we can say that the market climbed up and correct 61.8%, very, very precisely. So getting hit between these two very important territories is definitely signaling that the uptrend has completed its structure, and the potential is to see a continuance of an uptrend for this specific asset. Very, very good potential on my side, and I'm definitely going to take an advantage of this specific potential. Again, you had a very, very accurate entry point over here, but you can still find good entry points along the way if you'll drop to a lower time frame, such as the 15-minute chart. And again, every pullback is a logical scenario for a continuance of an uptrend. So in this case, you can see that we had on a lower scale. Again, just zooming out, I'll show you where we're coming from. So this was the initial entry point. Right now, we've completed a first wave, a pullback, a 1, 2, 3 right now on the 4th, and 5 dropping down. We will have another entry point. I assume that we will see a bit more downtrend over here, and then we will receive a pullback in 3 waves, and that will be a logical entry point for the additional expectation of a downtrend from this position and forward. Again, once we'll receive additional information from the market, then we will be able to make a more accurate assessment regarding a good entry point. But again, this is a good entry point as well for a continuous of an uptrend. That is my assessment regarding this asset. And another thing that I'd like to focus on is the potential on the announcement side. We received several announcements during the week regarding the dollar, regarding the Canadian dollar, but we're approaching a Wednesday, and on Wednesday we've got the BOC monetary policy, that is the Bank of Canada, and we've got the rate statement, meaning interest rate, and after that we've got some press conference on behalf of the Canadian market as well. And on Wednesday as well, we've got the overnight rate, which is the interest rate at which major financial institutes borrow and lend overnight funds between themselves. So that can definitely change the perspective of the Canadian dollar in the market, in addition to other announcements that we can see over here. Again, I've mentioned that we might see this chart dropping down, not only expressing a stronger Canadian dollar, but also a weaker dollar, which is a logical thing when we're analyzing other assets as well. So in this case, the dollar is expected to drop down, to lose its strength, and I assume that on this chart we will receive the largest movement expressing this weakness. From this position, I'd like to wish you all the best with your trade. Have a pleasant week, and bye-bye.